Hello and welcome to Breaking Views. I'm Sarah Jacob. The third G20 working group meeting on tourism has kicked off in Srinagar amidst heightened security. A three-day gathering of foreign delegates. This is the first global event in Jammu and Kashmir since August 15th, 2019, when the Modi government scrapped the special status of the state and it was bifurcated into two union territories. Around 60 delegates from G20 countries are attending. India, remember, is currently president of the G20. Remember, that is a rotational position. This is our turn. An intergovernmental bloc, that's what the G20 is. It comprises of 19 countries and the European Union. India claims that this G20 event will boost tourism in the region. Srinagar has already gotten a facelift. Roads leading to the airport have been given a coat of paint. Lampposts along the streets have been illuminated in orange, white and green, the colors of India's national flag. But are we just scratching the surface? India is hosting the G20 tourism meet in Kashmir under extremely heavy security. This is the first diplomatic event in the region since the abrogation of Article 370. And it is a diplomatic event really being held under the barrel of a gun. Srinagar has been under an unprecedented security blanket. This G20 summit is taking place really against the backdrop of Marine commandos, national security guards who've been deployed as part of the ground-to-air security cover. Anti-drone units have been activated and national security guards are deployed at sensitive places and installations. You have thousands of troops. You have from the army, from the border security force, the CRPF, that's the Central Reserve Police Force. You have the SSB, that's the Shastra, Seema Bal. You have the Jammu and Kashmir Police. All of them are part of this security grid that has come into place. Of course, amidst reports that terrorists may try to disrupt the G20 event in Kashmir. So, has normalcy and peace returned to the region? Or is this an illusion of normalcy? Is this a smokescreen of normalcy? India, of course, is this a projection of normalcy? But the fact that we're holding this G20 meeting in Srinagar, that we're getting to hold this in Srinagar, the first such meeting, unprecedented, does it mean that the 2019 scrapping of partial autonomy has brought peace and development to Jammu and Kashmir? Joining us on Breaking Views today, we have Neha Joshi, spokesperson of the BJP, National Vice President of the BJP. We have Irfa Jan, spokesperson of the NC, and we have Vikramaditya Singh, who runs the Karan Mahal, a boutique hotel, absolutely stunning hotel in Srinagar. SP Ved, former DGP of Jammu and Kashmir, will hopefully be joining us soon, and also Mohit Ban, spokesperson of the PDF. But let me first start by asking our BJP spokesperson, Neha Joshi. International 60 delegates are all in Srinagar right now. The participation of member countries of the world's most powerful club, according to you, is this an endorsement of India's stand on Article 370? Ma'am, you just have to unmute.
I'm on unmute. Hi,
can you hear me now?
Yes.
Very good evening to everyone. Thank you for having me. Now, I was listening to you speak about the G20 meeting and, you spoke about, is this a smokescreen? Now, when you look at this in isolation, and in a totally out of context way, I think what you need to look at the G20 meeting in the context of how things have changed in Jammu and Kashmir in the past few years. Tourism is the biggest source of employment in Jammu and Kashmir, and last year alone, 1.88 crore tourists from India and abroad visited Kashmir. This is unprecedented. This is the highest number since after independence. We had a record-breaking 20 lakh yatris attend the Amarnath Yatra. You know how the Yatra had been affected previously when Article 370 was still, not abrogated. So I think with the G20 meeting, this is a message to the rest of the world that Kashmir is not just open for tourism, but also for business, which is very important for a vibrant economy. The fact that the makers of Burj Khalifa are planning to invest $60 million in Kashmir Wadi. That's the first FDI in this region, first major foreign direct investment in this region. And now with this G20 meeting, India has presented a strong stand. A couple of countries boycotting it, a couple of countries who are sympathetic to the cause of Pakistan, they decided not to attend it. I think the rest of the countries have very clearly signaled to the world who they stand with, what the G20 stands with. I think that's what we need to focus on.
All right, so Kashmir is open for business. So you do have, the under Srinagar Smart City project, footpaths, roads have gotten a new look, a facelift. The Jhelum riverfront has been renovated, the laying of concrete footpaths, the Polo View market, Srinagar's best shopping places have been given a glittering facelift. But Irfa Jan, spokesperson of the NC, you heard the BJP over there. They're calling this event, literally it's historic. It's an opportunity to showcase the region's culture. It's an opportunity. It supports the stand that since the abrogation of Article 370, things have gotten normal. Would you agree?
You see, if things have gotten normal, if everything is so hunky-dory, if we can host people delegates from all over the world, why is it that if the security situation is so good, we cannot let our own people hold and elect their own assembly and chief minister? It's been 5 years since the last assembly election in Jammu and Kashmir was due. And for five long years, constantly we're getting told that, security situation is not good. Recently, in February, for example, the ECI, Election Commission of India, in one of the meetings said that there are only two things that are stopping them from holding elections in Jammu and Kashmir. One is the weather. Now you see the weather is all good. The second is the security situation. So my first thing would be, if the security situation is so good, why are assembly elections not being held? I want to remind your viewers that the last time the assembly elections were held in Jammu and Kashmir was back in 2014, which is around 9 years back. That is one. My second point is, constantly this event was called historic. A little bit of history would tell you that in 2013, National Conference hosted a similar event against the opposition that was created by the separatists and the usual elements when we hosted the Zubin Mehta's concert, and it was hosted by the National Conference government. It was an international concert of a very similar nature, and it did go pretty well. So this is not historic. Jammu and Kashmir has been, constantly it's being a host to such historic and foreign delegation events. So that is something we need to keep in mind before we say, oh, it's only happened after Article 370. And the number of tourists that we are constantly saying that, you have 1 crore tourists. It's actually for the first time that the BJP government is counting yatris as tourists. So, for example, all previous governments have actually made sure that tourists are separate, and religious tourism, which is very selected to one particular area, which is Katra and Amarnath Ji. Those two areas are kept separate. So, for the first time, BJP government now has completely changed the methodology, and it says it's counting religious pilgrims also as tourists. Okay. And one last point. So much fuss is being created over what is it's like a middle level officer meeting. If you look at it, not one ministerial level meeting has been held in Jammu and Kashmir. Not even a tourist minister has come to Jammu and Kashmir so that he could hold a tourist ministerial event. Instead, what we have is all these middle
But miss, we did have in the run-up in this year, we had Amit Shah hold a rally there. We also had Rahul Gandhi take out the Bharat Jodo Yatra.
Why can't we then have the elections?
Agreed. Fair enough. Ms. Joshi, please respond over here. What is the use? That's why this is an illusion. Jammu and Kashmir without an elected government for 5 years, actually no assembly elections for 9 years. How can you have normalcy without elections? No local political leadership participating at the G20 event. A G20 event being held under the barrel of a gun is that normalcy? You know, I was at that concert that you were just talking about there, and I've been one of those tourists. I've been to Srinagar and Gulmarg 5 times in the last 2-3 years. Many of us started traveling there because of the pandemic, because of the lockdown, because you couldn't travel abroad. We must continue to keep that. But is this normal, Mrs. Joshi?
I'm not sure what Mr. Jahan is more upset about. The fact that Kashmir is finally returning back to normal, or that top level leaders of the world that she alleges are not attending the meeting. Let me remind her that it's not just the Vidhan Sabha elections. Kashmir saw the local body elections in 2019 and we had almost 100% turnout. So, democracy remains intact. As for the Vidhan Sabha elections, we've had the delimitation exercise, and any time now the elections may be announced.
Anytime now, ma'am, the Home Minister has been saying that for months, for years.
Exactly.
Anytime now. Is that a euphemism for what? Let's get in the PDP. Mr. Bhan, please come in over here. Normalcy has returned.
You don't count the local body elections. 100% turnout. Kashmiris participated in that election. Kashmiris voted for their leaders. I'm not sure what is this.
Ma'am, please let her finish. Let Ms. Joshi finish. I want to then go across to the PDP spokesperson.
The participation of member countries of the world's most powerful club. This is an endorsement of India's stand. For the longest time, parties, some political opposition parties inside the country, some media houses, political parties outside of India. Today, whoever is speaking the language of Pakistan, or a couple of countries who've decided to ally with Pakistan, they are standing against all these numbers that I cited to you. They are standing against the hopes and aspirations of Kashmiris, which today are on full display. You showed those beautiful visuals of the Dal Lake. You showed, the beautifully lit up streets of Jammu and Kashmir. Kashmir being open to the world, being open for business, being open for tourism. That is a strong message that this meeting of G20 is sending out to the world. We have some major film stars, in Srinagar right now.
All right. Mr. Bhan, please respond over here. The message that's being sent out is that all is well.
See, I'll not talk today much about the politics of it, but I'd like to make 3 simple points. Point number 1, Ms. Joshi was talking about the democracy, and she was talking about the panchayat elections being conducted and all that. So let me tell Ms. Joshi that you should go and check back the numbers again, that 50% of those panchayat and those local municipal body seats are vacant since those elections were conducted. So the elections you're boasting about are like half hollow, and they have not been filled till now when the term of that panchayat is coming to end. So part 1. Part 2, you're talking about, the G20 summit. See, it is very clearly visible to everyone that it is just to show the normalcy in Kashmir. The Jammu region has been completely neglected. If G20 was such an important for Jammu and Kashmir, why is only Kashmir on the agenda? Why is no part of Jammu, be it Rajouri, be it Poonch, be it the Jammu city, not included in it? It has been clearly neglected, only to showcase that there is normalcy in Kashmir.
Okay, I'm not an expert, but I can simply say that Srinagar is the summer capital of Jammu and Kashmir. Hold on, sir. Of course, Rajouri is a separate matter, because we have seen militancy in Rajouri and Jammu and Kashmir, which did not exist before. Will both our panelists not talk over each other, please reduce their audio? I want to bring in SP Ved, who's a former DGP of Jammu and Kashmir. Mr. Ved, has normalcy returned, or have the 1990s returned? I ask you this because I think you were superintendent of police when there was an attack in Riyasi. I think that's where it is. And then those village defense groups were introduced. Village defense groups for, the Aam Aadmi who are here in the rest of India are where locals are armed to protect themselves. Then we saw in the year 2000 militancy waned, and then militancy went down quite a bit. Please correct me, Mr. Ved, if I'm wrong. VDCs were removed. They became irrelevant. In the last year, we've seen 29 civilians killed in Jammu and Kashmir. We've seen encounters, especially in the Jammu region, which has been relatively insulated from conflict in recent years. But these village defense groups are back. Mr. Ved, your reaction. Has normalcy returned?
Good evening, Sarah. if you see, after abrogation of Article 370 and 35A on 5th August 2019, subsequent years did see a drop in number of incidents, number of stone pelting incidents across the valley, and boys joining terrorist ranks. All, in fact, most of the parameters, civilians killed, the terrorists killed, the casualties of the security forces. But last 2 years, if you see, there is a spurt in activity, terrorist activities in Jammu region. And particularly Rajouri Poonch, you saw incidents where we lost brave army men, not only
Which is perhaps why Mr. Bhan was saying, why no event over there? But it's a 3-day event, it has to take place in Srinagar. Sorry, sir, go ahead.
But Sarah, let me mention here, you saw only two days back event of G7 in a country, Japan. Japan, which is largely peaceful and does not have neighbors like China and Pakistan. Here you are stuck with two difficult neighbors who are openly threatening.
But then,
you
Mr.
saw
Bad, what is
how
the
they are
point of
boycotting.
boasting about the normalcy? Then why doesn't the government come clean and say that, okay, the situation is not normal? There are issues at hand and we need to address those issues.
Please let him
But
respond.
everywhere you're saying that there is normalcy, everything is hunky-dory,
Can I
we are doing amazing,
let Mr. Ved respond, who is speaking right now?
But the issues which are at hand
Mr.
are not
Bhan,
addressed.
please let
You are
Mr.
talking
Ved
about tourism.
respond.
No, Sarah, listen, you are talking about tourism and the notices are being served to the hoteliers in Gulmarg, in Pahalgam to vacate their properties. And these hotels are being leased out to somebody from the outside. What is the point of boasting about this hollow tourism? When you are
Okay, hold on. Let's get in Vikramaditya Singh.
Let's
get in Vikramaditya Singh. Kashmir, despite the unrest, despite the violence, its sheer beauty is just mesmerizing, as the famous Amir Khusro's words were, that if there's heaven on earth, it is here. It is in Kashmir, and that's why it's been chosen. Why not? This is an opportunity to showcase Kashmir, heaven on earth. Vikramaditya Singh, please respond over here. Where do you stand? You, of course, stand to gain. You have a hotel. It would be great for you if more Indians decided, let's not travel to Switzerland. Let me just take this 1-hour flight, as I have discovered, and I can be in a place more prettier than Switzerland, just an hour's flight away. Your stand on this right now.
Good evening, Sarah. Thank you for having me on your show this evening. As you know, my association with Jammu Kashmir is much more than just being a hotelier. Our family goes back over 200 years, right up to the formation of Jammu and Kashmir state. So one views it from a very different perspective. You know, Jammu and Kashmir has seen different eras. Up to 1947 was a different period. Then from 52 to 2019. Came a very different period, and from 2019 now we are in a new era of a political era and dimension of Jammu and Kashmir and the rest of India. I feel we need to give it a chance. I mean, the process of normalization has begun. Small things like you see the number of tourism, you see the number of flights coming into Kashmir and going out of Kashmir. For the first time, I think in 30 years, the schools remained open for an entire term in Kashmir Valley. That was unheard of. There used to be so many calls for bunds. There used to be stone pelting. There used to be youngsters joining militant groups. All that has now been drastically reduced. You don't see band calls. You don't see stone pelting happening anymore. So I would say the process has begun. This argument that after the abrogation of 360 and 35A in 2019, to expect things to change overnight and suddenly you start arguing whether now everything is hunky-dory or normal. I mean, obviously it's not.
It's been 5 years though, sir.
It's going to take time. What is 5 years when you're looking at a historical perspective of from 1947 to today? 5 years is a very small period.
Mr. Vikramaditya,
And the government of India is...
Okay, one second, please.
The government of India, I'm sorry.
Okay, I'm going to give 30 seconds to each of our panelists. How many minutes do we have left? Hold on. Let me just give 30 seconds and go one to the other.
The government of India is committed to having elections. They have said that at an appropriate time, they will hold elections in the UP of Jammu and Kashmir. So what is the stress? They've even gone to the extent of saying that at an appropriate...
Okay, let Vikramaditya Singh finish, then I'll come to you.
I didn't interrupt you. Please let me finish.
Please let him finish.
You know, the government of India has even gone to the extent of saying that we will restore statehood of Jammu and Kashmir when the time comes.
Wow.
When an appropriate time happens.
Thank you so much.
But normal political activity remains suspended. Full statehood of Jammu and Kashmir remains suspended.
Not going to happen
Kashmiri
overnight.
Pandits are protesting. They want relocation to Jammu.
Can I just come in here?
You can, ma'am, but please respond to the question I asked earlier. Let's get our NC spokesperson. The fact that you had Rahul Gandhi take out a Bharat Jodo Yatra, the fact that you had Amit Shah hold a rally, of course, under a lot of security, does that also not portend that things are returning to normal? Though it has been 5 years and still no elections.
We are constantly seeing that things have been returning to normal since 2002, after we had detailed talks and after we had what was called the what was a peace pact. So say if you look at the violence, it's constantly coming down since 2002. If we look at the numbers, this idea that it suddenly happened is not true. If you look at the geography of terrorism in Kashmir, you would see it's actually widening. So far, we have never seen attacks in areas like Poonch and Rajouri. They've mostly been what are called terror-free attacks. We even saw this year encounters happening in Jammu, Sidra. That place has not seen an encounter in last 30 years.
Yeah.
So let's not lose sense of things by people showing some flags and people showing some boats going around. That is not the truth. You have to look at the wider picture. And a constant thing that I hear is that panchayat elections have happened. I would want Ms. Joshi to actually take out the book and see the panchayat elections in 2009 when they were held under National Conference government. They actually witnessed an 85% turnout. Panchayat elections are happening everywhere in every state.
Okay, let's get Ms. Joshi and we're going to be out of time. Ms. Joshi, it's been 5 years. The region has seen the world's longest internet shutdowns, mass detentions. Some reports that schools had to be closed. You're having this international summit. Much required, much needed. But the fact that it is happening, it cannot happen without the security, like complete clampdown, shows that all is not well. Ms. Joshi, last word to you.
Sarah, let me remind some of my fellow panelists and also the audience that this is also a region that saw a genocide of Kashmiri Pandits.
And
while international organizations and Western media would like to ignore positive developments in Kashmir, sadly for Pakistan,
all right, please let Ms. Joshi finish.
Pakistan sympathizers, Kashmir is increasingly peaceful.
Maybe let Ms. Joshi finish.
Hijack the debate.
The audio
You can't hijack the debate.
Yes.
You know, sadly for Pakistan and its sympathizers, Kashmir is becoming increasingly peaceful. The number of terrorist incidents from 2018 have declined by over 45%. For the first time, we have an international flight operating between Srinagar and Sharjah. There were no even late evening flights from Jammu and Srinagar both. Now we have evening flights to major cities. These are all positive changes that the international media, some vested interests inside our nation choose to ignore. But for the larger society, for India, I think these are all positive developments. This G20 meeting is going to give a boost to business, to democracy in Kashmir, and also, tourism that is already booming.
All right, but what about civil liberties? Can we have normalcy without elections, without democratic elections and without civil liberties? That's the question at this hour on Breaking Views. Thank you so much for joining us on the big story of the day.